let's talk about something scary. If you're new here, hi. I usually talk about some pretty scary stuff, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my best friend's experiences because I don't know how I forgot it. It's absolutely bone-chilling, and it really makes you think about how many places in the world are actually haunted. So let's get started. I had this friend in high school, we'll call him Jay, who was an avid ghost hunter. He believed in the paranormal, he believed in the afterlife, he believed in it all. And we really started being friends after the whole Ouija board experience. And one night, he was blowing my phone up. So much so that I actually woke up from my sleep and saw that I had about 30 messages. And what I proceeded to open on my phone was absolutely horrifying. So there's a road about 2 hours out of my hometown called Seven Sisters Road, and it's supposedly very haunted. So the legend goes that 7 women were murdered in the early 1900s on that road, and their spirits never left. And supposedly, if you drive on this road at a specific time of night, your car will malfunction. And some of the more common things that a lot of people say that they see are lights, apparitions, their car shuts off, their car dies, their radio goes out, they hear screaming, they hear whispering. And it's important to note that this is a gravel road in the middle of nowhere. So my friend sends me this video of him driving, hand on the wheel, hand in the phone, talking to the screen, whatever. And he comes to a complete stop because you're supposed to stop and park your car. Immediately his radio goes out as he parks. He starts messing with the buttons, and I'm seeing this all happen via video. Right after the radio comes on, his car dies. And I mean, dies. Headlights shut off, the whole shebang. So now he's sitting in complete darkness in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night. And it gets worse. He starts to hear the gravel start to move. And he says that he could feel the car moving. Not forward or backward, but just kind of like shaking. After that stops though, he tries to turn his car on. The car turns on. Headlights are on. He gets out of the car. He's recording the whole time. He gets out. He shows his car and he starts to notice something. There are footprints all over his car. And just as a reminder, this is a gravel road, so all the dust settled, so these footprints are fresh. And they walked from the front of his car on the hood all the way up his windshield onto the sunroof, all the way back down, and just stop. So obviously he's freaked out. He takes his finger and swipes it through just to show people that they're not old footprints on his car, they're new, and it matches completely to the dust coming off. So he essentially is like, absolutely not, gets in his car, reverses, and drives all the way home. But he insists that it is one of the scariest moments that he's ever experienced to this day. That's going to do it for me. Stay tuned for more ghost stories.
Hello and welcome back to a series of spooky stories, The Haunted Tea Spill, featuring the cute necklace that helped us sponsor so many angels off of the angel tree from the nursing home. Thank you again to everybody who purchased a necklace or donated and helped us get all of that angel tree stuff together. Also, I want to say thank you for buying out all of that girl's wish list last night. The whole list is gone today. This is the type of stuff that I love. So I think from now on, I'm going to pick an item for each month, whether it be a necklace, a shirt, whatever. Whatever commission I make off of that specific item that month, I will donate to some cause, something, somewhere. December is an easy month to pick because we can do stuff like we did last night. Wish lists and all that jazz. Angel trees, stuff like that. If you think that's a good idea, let me know. If you're like, girl, you're a little ambitious, you can also let me know, but I'm still going to do it. I'd also like suggestions. Women's shelter, Planned Parenthood, stuff like that. Drop some ideas in the comments and what you think about it. Now onto the story. This happened over 10 years ago now. My ex-husband and I were living in a small town in eastern Washington at the time with our 3 children. I started getting weird vibes the moment we moved into the apartment. Something was just off. Hearing things at night, and I could have sworn someone was watching us as we slept. I'd wake up with large scratches on my legs and bruises that hadn't been there before I fell asleep. Fuck. Bruises turned to handprints, and I even went as far as accusing my ex of doing something to me while I slept. I mean, valid, because who's gonna automatically go to fucking demons, you know? He, of course, denied it, and how right he was. It was about 3 months into living in that place when I woke up to something right next to my bed, watching me sleep. I say something because it wasn't human in the slightest. You know those silent screams where the person is desperately trying to get the noise out, but nothing is? Yeah, that was me, but it was more like my voice was being controlled. I had sleep paralysis one time, and that's what happened to me, and it was the scariest shit of my fucking life. As I reached for the light next to the bed, because in my brain, evil lives in the darkness, make it less dark, also valid, I watched it drop to the floor and slither. Yeah, you heard that right. Slither out of the room. Slither the fuck away from me forever. You creepy ass, scary ass bitch. Thanks. I have never in all of my life been so scared. As it crossed the threshold of the room, back into the hallway, the scream came out of my mouth, waking my ex-husband, oldest and middle child, up because their room was right next to ours. My ex-husband actually fell out of the bed. I scared him so badly. As I explained to him what happened, I could hear my oldest calling, "Mama, something is touching me." Bitch, I swear to God. I don't think I've moved that fast ever. I watched it slither out of their room. They looked at me and asked me what it was. I had no answers for them. I had no idea what it was besides horrifying. Yeah, a fucking basilisk is in your house and you just have to turn on the light and hope for the best? Shit. I refused to sleep with the lights off after that, at least in the apartment. Whatever it was, or is, followed us for literal years. I would wake up to it hanging in the corners of our room and other places we lived, hotels, my ex-in-laws, etc. I've never been able to look it up or research what it was because I don't even want to welcome that kind of thing back into my life, and until this year, I haven't been able to talk about it out of fear that it would return. It's been out of my life since my divorce, and I'm not sure if it's attached to him or not, nor do I honestly care. I hope it's haunting him still, though. Okay. Although it never attacked him, just me and our children. I still can't sleep with the lights off. I sleep with a color changing light just in case it isn't really gone, just waiting for me to let my guard down. See, that's why I'm always hyper aware, because I will be fucking damned if you catch me off guard, bitch. Also, that's sketch that it never tried to attack him. Only you and the kids. Weird. Anyway, rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being really scary, creepy, spooky, 10 being the most, or you don't have to rate it at all. You know, that's your prerogative. Let me know what you think about this idea in the comments. I would love your feedback. If you have a story of your own that you want to submit, you can do so on the link tree in my profile, because the Amazon link is gone now because it's taken care of. I'll see y'all the next episode. Stay spooky, friends. Do y'all hear this shit? This is the shit that I have to deal with every fucking day. God damn.
So a lot of y'all are unaware about Devil's Hour at 3 a.m. and that's honestly why I avoid staying up past 3 a.m. And after hearing this story from one of my followers named Kira, who told me about why she never stays up past 3 a.m., I think you'll never want to stay up late ever again. So Kira is a sophomore at a college in upstate New York, majoring in psychology. Like most college students, she pulled all-nighters often, scrolling on TikTok, studying, or binging shows when she couldn't sleep. She told me her dorm room was small, a twin bed against the wall, her desk by the window, and her closet right beside the door. She shared the suite with 2 other girls, but they all had their own room connected by a small hallway. At night, when everyone was asleep, the whole building would go quiet, no music, no talking, no noise, except for the faint hum of the heating vent. So tonight for Kira was like any other night, pulling an all-nighter. And when she noticed the time was 3:02 a.m., that's when everything started. Kira told me she was lying on her bed, laptop open, halfway through an essay when her screen flickered, just once, and her webcam light turned on. She told me she hadn't opened any apps, she wasn't on a call, the little green light just stayed on for about 5 seconds before shutting off again. So Kira told me in this moment she kinda just laughed nervously, assuming it was her computer glitching. But then she told me her Bluetooth speaker across the room made a faint crackling noise like static. Then through the static, she swears she heard something whisper, "You shouldn't be awake." Kira told me she just stopped. It wasn't loud, and it kinda sounded like someone was talking from inside of the wall. She shut her laptop, unplugged the speaker, and tried to convince herself that she was just imagining things. She even texted her roommate down the hall, but the message just said delivered. No reply, and Kira ended up falling asleep at around 4 a.m. But the next night, she stayed up again, and Kira told me it just got worse. At 3:11 a.m., she heard something in her room. A faint clicking sound, tap, 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 coming from her closet. It sounded like fingernails against wood, very slow. She got up from her bed, turned on all the lights, and whispered, "Is someone there?" Kira then told me the tapping stopped, and for a few seconds, it was silent. Then, one single tap, like it was a response. Kira said in this moment, it was like she was trying so hard not to pass out. That's how scared she was. She told me she backed away from her closet, grabbed her hoodie, and ran over to her roommate's room. Her roommate was confused, and Kira said she was a little bit upset that she had woken her up. But when they went back together to check, the tapping was gone. Everything looked normal, and honestly, Kira just looked crazy. The next night, Kira told me she tried to go to bed early. She told herself she was overtired, maybe just hearing the pipe, wipes. Maybe all of this was just stress. But just before 3 a.m., she woke up to the sound that made her whole body shiver. Footsteps, slow and soft ones coming from the hallway. She assumed it was her roommate until she started to hear her doorknob rattle. Once, twice, then it stopped. She told me she sat up on her bed whispering, "Hello?" but there was no answer. Then she heard a voice on the other side of the door that sounded like her roommate. "Hey, Kira, can you open the door?" So she told me her body relaxed for a second until she noticed something. Kira had gotten up, checked the little peephole, and noticed her roommate wasn't at the door. In fact, there was no one at the door standing outside. Kira told me she then backed away from the door whispering, "Who's there?" She then told me the voice answered again. "It's me, Kira. Open the door." Only this time, the voice didn't sound right. It was off. Kira told me it was like someone was trying to mimic her roommate's tone, but it was slower and deeper and it just sounded weird. Then seconds later, Kira told me the voice changed completely. And in a whisper, it said, "Let me in." Right after that, banging on the door. Kira told me she grabbed her phone, shaking, texting her roommates, "Someone's at the door." Within seconds, she heard both of her roommates' doors open and peeked out from the peephole to see that they were both standing there. Kira said she opened the door and told them everything, even the banging. And the crazy thing is, Kira's roommates heard the banging and thought that it was Kira doing it on purpose. Fast forward, they called campus security, who came up and checked the entire floor. The cameras didn't show anyone entering or leaving the building between 2:30 a.m. and 4 a.m. No forced entry, no noise detected, nothing. But here's where it gets weird. When they checked Kira's dorm door, the inside of the handle had smudges like fingerprints from someone who had been holding it. And keep in mind, the roommates never touched that door handle, they were just standing outside. Kira told me she moved dorms a week later, but even now she says she can't sleep through the night. Every once in a while, if she's still awake past 3 a.m., she swears she can hear that faint clicking sound again, like fingernails on wood coming from her closet in her new room. She ended up telling me that she doesn't know what it was, but it wasn't human. And whatever it was, it knew her name. Kira told me she has no idea what to do, but the only thing she can do is avoid staying up past 3 a.m.
This paranormal activity is freaking crazy. The story was sent in by somebody who wants to remain anonymous. It is kind of long, but let's get back into the ghost stories. Let's hear it. I watched one of your videos where someone shared their story about a haunting that followed them when they moved, and I'd like to share mine. I come from a small town in Texas that you wouldn't know unless you've been there. When I was 9 months old, I survived what should have been a death sentence after pulling a deep fryer full of hot oil on myself. I share this because I believe the closer someone gets to death, the more susceptible and sensitive they are to the paranormal. I have many stories, but this one immediately came to mind after watching one of your videos. The haunting made my skeptical friends and family question everything that they thought they knew. In the early 2000s, my mother and stepfather moved into a house in our county in Texas. It was a large, nice house that they were renting, but it was way cheaper than it should have been. My mom never explained why, she just said that she got a good deal. First thing that we noticed while moving in was a dark reddish-brown stain in the middle of the dark blue carpet. The best way to describe it is that it looked like rust. My mom cleaned it, and you couldn't see it anymore, so we didn't think anything of it. Nothing odd really happened that day, but something did feel off, and I couldn't figure out what it was. We finished moving in and got the bed set up and decided to take the rest of the day off. I can't tell you exactly what time it was, but I woke up freezing. It wasn't the cold that woke me, though. My mom had a scanner at the time that gave off a lot of light when it scanned something, and the light started moving back and forth. I went to my mom's room and told her what was going on, and she told me to unplug it. But the thing was, it was already unplugged. That ended up being the last time I ever slept in that room, and even though I just assumed it was first night jitters, after that I started sleeping on the couch in the front living room every single night. Things stayed quiet for a while, and then I had 4 friends over for my birthday. End of the night, my mom asked if we had spilled something in the living room. None of us had even been in there. This was the early 2000s, and we were 90s kids who spent most of our time outside. I went to look, and the stain my mom was talking about looked just like the one we had seen when we moved in. Same spot and everything. Later that night, my oldest friend and I were in the second living room trying to sleep. The next morning, he told me our house must be haunted because he saw my sister walk past the doorway toward the bathroom. Eventually, he decided to go outside so he could go back to sleep, which meant he had to walk past the bathroom door. The bathroom was open, and my sister was nowhere to be found. I laughed about it the next morning and told him that's what we get for watching Amityville before bed. After that, we started hearing footsteps constantly at night in the hallway between the living rooms and the bedrooms. After almost a year in the house, one of my sister's friends began staying with us and sleeping in the living room with me. He always had a reason for the footsteps, saying it was just the house making noise, refusing to believe in anything paranormal. That changed on his last night staying there. One night, my sister, her friend, and I were in the living room watching the original Fast and Furious, and when it ended, my sister said she was going to bed. "Yeah, right, you'll be back in 10 minutes like always," he said. After she left, we got our blankets and pillows ready and turned the TV off. It wasn't a flat screen, it was an old style TV that gave off static if you got too close, and when you turned it off, it let off a flash. He slept facing the door, and when the TV flashed, he saw a girl in the darkness walking past the doorway. He shouted, "I told you you'd be back, and not even in 5 minutes," but got no response. He called my sister's name again, and we heard her yell back from the other side of the house, "What do you want?" We checked the other living room, the bathroom, the kitchen. No one else was there. He left that night, saying he had seen the ring and wasn't dealing with that. Over time, the female ghost became the norm in our house. She never seemed hostile or angry, just curious, like she was always following me around. And to be honest, I didn't mind it. It was oddly comforting. One night, after we found out my stepdad had cancer, he had a massive seizure and was taken to the hospital. My sister, cousin, and 2 of her friends left, leaving me alone in the house. I was an emotional wreck, having never seen a seizure before, so I tried to distract myself by watching South Park in the living room. I heard the ghost coming toward the living room and wasn't in the mood, so I thought, okay, she wants to be in here, I'll go play my guitar in my room. As soon as I grabbed my guitar, I heard her coming down the hallway toward my room. I shut the door, but the door handle started to jiggle, and then the door slowly opened, which honestly was creepy as hell. Jumped up and said out loud, "Fine, you stay here, I'll go back in there." I walked back to the living room. I heard the footsteps directly behind me, and the air felt dense. I turned around expecting to see her, but of course she wasn't there. Floorboards creaked in front of me like she was coming back toward me again, and that's when I messed up. In an angry outburst, I yelled, "Leave me alone, you fucking bitch." When I tell you the atmosphere in the house changed immediately, only people who have experienced a haunting will understand. The bedroom doors behind me started opening and slamming shut, hard and fast, and the lights began flickering on and off. Being the tough, brave young man I was at the time, I stood up straight and turned and ran out of the house as fast as I could. Stood across the street at the feed mill we lived by when the front door slammed shut so hard that it echoed down our street. I stayed there for hours waiting for someone to come back. Eventually, my mom, sister, cousin, and her friends came home after they got my stepdad settled into a hospital room. When they asked why I was outside, I told them everything that had happened. I took my cousin and their 2 friends, all grown men, to try to open the front door, and when they finally got it to crack open a little, something slammed it shut again. Eventually, we managed to get in, and they searched the entire house and attic, swearing it had to have been someone holding the door shut. There was no one in the attic, crawl space, rooms, or backyard, and nothing was missing. That's the story of my first chaotic experience with a ghost. I have a treasure chest of experiences I'm willing to share if you'd like. Later, I took this blessing or curse with me when I worked in the prison system in my local jail. And things got even crazier. Thank you for your time. That's absolutely wild. I cannot even imagine dealing with that, especially being so young at 14 and being there by yourself and having all that chaotic stuff happen. Will say though, I know what you're talking about when you say that the entire atmosphere shifted, because that energetic feeling changes and your body's telling you to get the hell out. So I can't joke around with the paranormal. That was an intense story. Thank you so much for sending that in. Of course, we'd love to hear all your other stories. And if you have a story that you would like to send in, you can email it to me at michaelasghoststories@gmail.com or DM it to me here on TikTok. But until next time, stay close to the light.
Can we show them the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. As you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
They went to both.
Yeah.
The creepiest thing happened to us last night, and I need y'all's opinion. My husband had planned a date night last night, and I called him letting him know that I was on my way home to drop off some stuff, and then I will be on my way to go pick up the kids. He said okay, but he said that he had noticed a very large nail in one of our tires. He said he would be driving to Walmart to buy a plug to plug the tire, and then he'd come home. My mom had taken my kids to a birthday party, so I was on my way to the party to pick up my kids. And while I'm there, my husband tells me that on his way to Walmart, he somehow got a razor blade stuck on the same tire where he had already gotten a nail in. He literally said, "It's okay. I'm gonna change the tire to the spare tire. We're not gonna let this ruin our night. Everything's fine. We're still gonna go out tonight." I was like, okay. My mother-in-law was gonna watch the kids for us, and I was on my way to her house. And as I'm getting my son down, he is burning up in a fever. I was at this birthday party for a while, and he was literally fine. He was playing, he was eating, he was perfectly fine. But now that I was ready to drop them off for about an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours, he was burning up in fever. So I called my husband and I'm like, "Hey, we're not going nowhere tonight. Something is weird. Our son has a fever. We're not going nowhere." I get home last night and sure enough, he has a fever. This was his temperature last night, and this is the tire in question. Right there is the nail that my husband first got, and that right there is the razor blade. How did this happen? So what was going on? Was there someone, was it the universe, something trying to prevent us from going somewhere? Because first it's the nail, then the razor blade. My husband was adamant. He's like, "It's okay. Nothing's gonna ruin our night. I'll change the tire. Everything's fine." And if you know me, you know that if my children are sick, I'm stopping the world. I'm calling in. I'm not going nowhere. I need to tend to my children. And lo and behold, my son gets a fever out of nowhere. What do you guys think? Do you think this is a coincidence? You think the universe or something was trying to get us not to go anywhere? Let me know what y'all think.
Can you imagine babysitting a kid and realizing that he's possessed? I'm not gonna lie, this feels like a good scary movie I would watch, but being that it happened to somebody in real life, no thank you. Mariana says that when she was younger, she would babysit a lot of kids in the neighborhood in order to make some extra money. And as time would go on, those families that she would babysit for would recommend her to other people that they knew. So one day, one of the parents that she would regularly babysit for came to her and said that one of her friends really needed someone to take care of her son overnight because they were gonna go to a wedding. And of course she said yes, because obviously she's trying to make this extra cash, and she showed up to their house on the day that they told her to. When she showed up to the house, the mom introduced her to her son and explained to her that he is a really calm kid, that he wouldn't be giving her any problems. They then went over the times of like when the kid had to do his homework, the time that he could watch TV, go take a shower, and his bedtime, of course. They explained to her that they were just gonna go to a wedding and that they didn't know if they were gonna come either like at midnight or like at 4 or 5 in the morning, which is why they wanted her to stay the night. They also gave her their phone number in case anything happened, and they left. And she was alone with the boy. There was no other kid, it was just them two. Oh, and the dog. Everything went fine and everything was normal until it was time for the kid to go to sleep. She said that she put him to bed, closed the door, and she went to the living room because she wasn't sleepy, so she decided to read a book. She mentions that the dog's bed was also in the living room, but after a little while, the dog started walking towards the kid's bedroom door and started barking like crazy. She noticed how the dog wouldn't get super close to the door, almost like it was scared of something. And that worried her because she's like, what if somebody came in through the window? What if, like, who's in that bedroom? Because that dog wouldn't be barking at the kid. So she decided to go to the bedroom and see what was going on. She knocked on the bedroom door twice, but the kid never responded. But it was in that moment where she heard an adult male's voice coming from inside the bedroom. And again, the dog was still barking while all this was happening. She immediately opens that bedroom door and she sees the little boy from the back. I would close that door and be on my way. So she walks into the room. The kid is sitting at the edge of his bed with his back facing her. She said that he was like saying random words, but that's not what scared her. What left her traumatized was that the voice, the deep male voice, was coming from that little boy. It wasn't the voice that she had heard earlier that day. The male voice that she had heard through the door was coming from him. She says that she got a little bit closer because she needed to confirm what she was seeing and hearing. She got in his face and the boy was not looking at her, but the deep male voice was indeed coming from the little boy. At that point, she was calling him by his name just to see if he would react and maybe he was sleepwalking, like just to wake him up. But the kid continued to talk until he looked her way and just stopped talking altogether. Oh my god. She said it was in that moment where he stood up from his bed and reached out to her, almost like just trying to touch her shoulder. He began to walk towards her and again talk in that deep male voice. She ran straight out of that room and got the phone and started calling his parents, but they weren't answering her phone calls. She said that even the dog ran with her and hid underneath the couch. She said that as soon as that happened, she's still trying to call the parents, and the kid comes out of his bedroom crying, this time with his normal voice. This time she gets close to him and asks him if he's okay, and the little boy responded to her that it happened again and that he's really scared. She started hugging him and asking him what was it that happened again, and the little boy responded, "It's my grandpa." He kept saying other words, but because he was crying, she couldn't understand what he was saying. She said that after a while she did manage to calm him down, and the dog did come out from underneath that couch to come and comfort him as well. She says that the boy tells her that this hadn't happened to him in a long time. He tells her that his grandfather, who had passed away, would get inside of him, that his grandfather was evil and that he is so scared of him. The little boy was terrified, and she just managed to ask him if his parents knew about this. The little boy said yes, and that the parents had already brought a priest to bless him. The kid also tells her that they blessed the house as well. After a few minutes, the parents finally called her back and she explained everything that happened. And she says that they immediately hung up and showed up to their house right away. They were both hugging their son and at the same time telling her how sorry they were that this happened. The parents had confirmed everything that little boy had told her. She said that the mom told her that in his last years of living, the grandfather got together with this lady that everybody knew was a bad witch. They were even sure that his death was provoked by this lady and how he definitely did not die in peace. They have no idea why he had chosen their son to manifest in. She explains how terrified she was of this situation, but said goodbye to the family and went about her way. She says that she had never heard back from that family, but honestly, she's not mad about it because she didn't want to go there again. Nobody hired me as a babysitter. There'd be no way that I would stay in that house. At the very least, I would have ran to my car, locked the doors, and called the parents. Judge me all you want, but what would you do? I would still watch this movie though. Somebody do this.
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen. Did the window break?
This is a terrifying story about a mimic. If you're new here, hi. I usually talk about pretty scary stuff, and I actually have an email where anyone who finds this page can send me their ghost stories. And this is one of the submissions that I've received. So let's get into it. The person who sent me this story would like to remain anonymous, and for obvious reasons, I'm gonna respect that. And if you don't know what a mimic spirit is, then let me tell you. Now, in my opinion, mimics are the scariest kinds of spirits that you can have around you because they can mimic people that you know and love. And a lot of the time, they like taunting the people that they're scaring, which in my experience has been very effective. I did get very scared. The woman who sent me this says that she was fresh out of high school, 18 years old, living with her grandparents, and the way that her room was set up was in the basement. So the basement was an open floor concept, which means there were minimal walls. And from the way that it's being described in the email, it sounds like all of the walls that were there were just curtains put up to mimic having a room, instead of having this gigantic singular room for their granddaughter to sleep in. So it's important to note that this was an older 3-story house, and this occurred in the middle of the day. Additional important context is her great-grandmother was living with her grandparents at the time, but her great-grandmother and her grandparents would just stay upstairs because they couldn't get around all that well in the house. So the basement was kind of off limits anyways because their granddaughter lived downstairs, but they didn't really go down there to begin with because they can't get around all that well, just to set up the story. Now, the person who told me this says that it was around 10 a.m. when this happened. She had just gotten dressed and she was sitting on her bed. Her great-grandma was upstairs watching soap operas, and her grandmother was just upstairs also. So she gets up, gets ready to open the curtain. That is her main door, and clear as day. Right as she's about to open this curtain, she hears her great-grandmother on the other side of the curtain say her name. And immediately, the person who sent me this email is taken aback and is like, how did my great-grandmother get downstairs so quickly, and why did I not hear anybody come down the stairs? So she's just standing frozen in fear, looking at this curtain and what could be on the other side of it, because she knows that her great-grandmother is not on the other side. And by the time she built up the courage to pull the curtain back, there was nothing there. So she runs upstairs and sees that her great-grandmother is still in the living room watching her soap operas. She then asks her great-grandmother, like, did you say my name? How did you get downstairs? Her great-grandmother proceeds to tell her that, no, I didn't go in the basement, and no, I didn't call your name because I thought you were still sleeping. So then the person who sent me this email is telling her great-grandmother, like, what had happened to her in the basement. And her great-grandmother proceeds to tell her that when she was a little girl, her mother told her that if you hear somebody's voice who has passed away, you will pass away in the same manner. But the person who sent me this email says that she didn't understand why the voice sounded like her grandmother until she learned about mimic spirits. And the more I read submissions, the more I realize that mimic experiences are actually very common for people. If you have a ghost story, be sure to submit it in the link in my bio. But anyways, that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned for my ghost stories.